Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. If you haven't guessed by the title, today we are doing a TBR jar chooses my February reads. I've seen so many people doing this recently and I really wanted to join on the trend. I also have a lot of books on my physical TBR that I just kind of don't reach for or I forget about. I'm hoping by using a TBR jar prompt that I start picking up more books that have been on my TBR for a little while and helps me just get through my physical TBR, because I've noticed recently I'll finish a book and I'll be sitting there for 2 days not reading because I'm like, I don't really know what I want to read. So I'm hoping this helps me with that problem that I'm having at the moment. Now you can't see the full amount, I'll try and show you. So this is my bookshelf. She goes all the way down, and then I've got a whole bunch of books still in boxes because I just don't have the shelf space for them. So this is like the main bookshelf. She's pretty, she's gorgeous, we love, we stan. I'm just gonna be choosing 5 books for this each month just because I usually read around 4 to 5 books each month, so it gives me a little bit of variety and I don't obviously have to stick to this TBR directly, but I'm only choosing 5. Okay, so give the jar a little shake up. And the first one we are pulling out is a literary fiction book. Okay, let me just have a little quick gander. Oh, okay. We've got Yellow Face by Rebecca F. Quang. I think she is the author of Poppy Wars and Babel as well. I believe this is a literary fiction book. If I'm wrong, please correct me down below. But I also feel like this is the only literary fiction book that I haven't read yet. In saying that, I don't have many literary fiction books. It still has the receipt in it from when I bought it. I do remember reading like a couple pages into this and decently liking it. My friends that I go to uni with have read this. One of them is a real big fan of R.F. Kuang. So I'm excited to read this one. Okay, so we have book 1. Let's reach for book 2. Also, how cute is this like little jar? Next one is a book that's been adapted. A book that's been adapted for film or a TV show or something. Okay, so I've got 3 choices here. First off, we have Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I have had this series on my shelf for a while and I've been wanting to get to it. So you've got movies that were released a few years ago and then they've just released a series that I've wanted to watch as well. So I could possibly read this and then watch the series. The second one we have is of course Twilight. I've got the white covers. I just haven't read this series yet. So this is also a choice. And then this last choice technically now is becoming an adaptation, but this is Wicked by Gregory Maguire. If you don't know, there is a musical called Wicked. It's like the prequel to The Wizard of Oz. This book is what it was based off, and then now that musical is becoming a 2-part movie series. But I think I'm gonna go with Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief just because I feel like it'll be a pretty easy read and super interesting, because then I can start the whole series. 2 prompts down, 3 to go. Okay, pick number 3. Enemies to lovers trope. What could we do for this one? See, this is the problem with not really knowing what tropes are in books because I have no idea. Between romance or fantasy. Fantasy is true enemies to lovers though. After a little bit of researching, I have chosen Kingdom of the Wicked, which obviously if you watch any of like the big booktubers, Sarah Crowley recently read the series and absolutely loved it. And after a little bit of Googling, it says they have an enemies to lovers type banter and relationship. So I'm just taking that as this is enemies to lovers, but this is book number 3. Time to choose book number 4. So number 4 is book with a pretty cover. Oh, this gives me so many options. I don't really have a romance yet, so I really want a romance. For now, we're gonna go with Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I did start this sometime last year, but I only made it like a chapter in. But from what I could tell, I would really like it. I do have a trip coming up this month, so maybe I'll take this one just to take one book to last me the whole trip. Now to pick the final book for this video, and that is a poetry book. I only have one poetry book, and that is currently in my room, so let me go get it. Okay, so the poetry book I have is Jane Austen Poems and Favorite Poems. This was gifted to me recently by my friend Ava, who she is a big poetry book person. She loves her poetry books. It's also a nice little short book, which I think counteracts the massive weight of Binding 13. She's also a pretty cover. I also forgot to mention that there will be 6 books on my TBR, not 5, because I also have my February mystery read, which will have a whole video of itself. If you haven't seen before, I make a series I started last year and I'm continuing it this year, where my cousin has gifted me 12 books all wrapped up, one for each month of the year, and I unwrap it, I read it, and I give my reviews in a video. I have books from January to July of last year, just because after that life got a little hectic. So I'm starting this series again. I'm currently reading January's one, which is really exciting as well. But this is February's, but let's do a recap of all the books I picked. So first off, we have Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kwong, or Kwang. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong. So this is the literary fiction pick. I know this is about, I believe, 2 authors, one of them being jealous of another one's success, and kind of something about that. That's really all I know about this book. The next choice was a book that's been adapted, and for that we picked Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. If you haven't heard about this book or seen the movie or seen the TV show, this is about a boy who is the son of the Greek water god. There's a whole bunch of sons and daughters of the gods. They're called half-bloods. They go to a camp and lots of things happen in this story. Again, really excited to try and pick this one up in February and finally start my reading journey of Percy Jackson. The next one was for the enemies to lovers trope, and for that one we picked Kingdom of the Wicked. I don't know much about this other than here you've got sisters, I think one died, then you've got princes of hell, and the main one in this one is the Prince of Wrath. They go on a journey to figure something out, as fantasy is, but this was my enemies to lovers pick. Next we have a book with a pretty cover, and you might not think this is a pretty cover, but I genuinely do think this is a pretty cover. She's also a pretty hefty book, so we'll see how much of this I actually read. But yeah, I'm really excited. I've heard lots of good things from this about Destiny Sidwell, and from what I read of like the first chapter so far, I did pretty much enjoy it, which is good, so I'm excited to get to this one as well. Then the last one from the TBR prompt jar was a poetry book, and for that one we have a poetry collection from Jane Austen, which again was gifted to me. Not much more to say than it's a collection of poetry. And then lastly, we just have my mystery book, which I can't tell you much about because I don't know what book it is. Here is my TBR for February 2024. I'm excited to see how many of these I get through. Probably won't get through all of them if I'm being honest, but it gives me a little guide to what to read, as lately I just have not known. That's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and are excited to see how much of these books I do actually read through February. Also, if you couldn't tell, I have bought a camera finally. I've got a whole vlog coming out with me kind of like just being with my new camera, so that's very exciting. I'm excited to get some more content out for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.